Hey, what's up, everyone? Jonathan Allen here at Floodwater Studios. You know, if you've listened to the album that I put out, Wishful Forgetting, or you listened to the Christmas album that Eli and I put out under Floodwater called the Holly Jolly album, you can get a sense that I really like ambient guitar. Now, this may stem from coming, I grew up in church. I play a lot on worship teams. I played a lot on different worship teams, but even more so now, the style of CCM, the way that contemporary Christian music is going, is a ton of reverb, lots of delays, just filling out space. Now, I've liked ambient guitar well before that kind of took the shift in the church world anyway. So when I start recording things, I mean, there's tons of options for everything that we have. Now, I physically don't have the equipment to do a stereo rig with real guitar amps and mic it up and do all the effects. Now I have the pedal board, which we'll do a video in the future about my full pedal board. I do have a Vox AC15, but I don't have multiple amps. That's the only one that I have. So how can we get a stereo rig inside Studio One working with virtual amps, working with virtual instruments, essentially, simulators, modulators? Line 6, the Helix, is a big thing right now for a lot of people. It's an amp modeler. So how do we do that in the software? So let's jump in the software here. So obviously you can essentially do two channels, pan them left and right, and then you have two channels that you have to finagle with while you're mixing. But there's another option that I like to use, which is a splitter. So I'll show you here how that works. So let's go ahead and create a new track. So we're just going to call this stereo guitar, and it's just going to be a single track. We don't need anything fancy with it. So we're on desk mic here. The input we just did, we're going to do 1 because I'll have a guitar in just a second. And what we're going to do first is we're going to pull over Ampire. Now, Ampire is going to load with a Marshall style amp. If we're shooting for ambient tones, I don't necessarily want to go with a Marshall for that right now. So what I like to do is put it to the Blackface Twin that's offered, and then we're going to set the cabinet itself to the matching cabinet. So here we have the Blackface Twin. So let's grab a guitar and see what this sounds like, just stock. So that's just the standard amp setting that preloads when you pull it up. Now, obviously, you could prop on some tube scream. It still sounds good for what it is. Now, what I normally like to do is pop this on bright mode just to get a little more high end out of it. Now, for ambient guitars themselves, I normally pull up the middle just a little bit because it fills out the space some. Now, when we go to the EQ side of things, obviously we're going to correct a little bit from that. Bass we're going to pull down because we don't need a ton. And treble we're not going to touch right now, so let's just listen to that real quick. That's a pretty good clean setting for everything, and that's what we want to do when we start stacking pedals, whether they're physical pedals that we're feeding into the DAW or it's the pedals that are inside the virtual pedals here. Now, one thing I don't want is, as much as I love spring reverb, I'm going to turn the reverb off on this amp. Now, we have the first amp set up, but we said that we want a stereo rig, but we want it on one channel. We don't want two channels that we have to bus out or put it to a VCA or even have a separate folder like we've done in the other videos when we were talking about the template. We just want one channel that is a left and right stereo channel. So what we're going to do is right up top here, we have this little button for routing. So we're going to click the route, and here we can see just straight down the line here into Ampere. But we want to add a splitter. So we've added the splitter. We have left and right over here. Now it kept Ampere underneath the splitter, but we want to put it on the left. And then we want to essentially duplicate the amp if that's the amp that we want. Now what we could do for sure here is mess with different types of amplifiers. And again, probably don't want to go with the Marshall. I don't for this. But maybe we do want to go with an AC30 and blend those two together. So if we listen to just the AC30 by itself, now the first thing to keep in mind there, it's a lot hotter to start. So what we want to do is take it down to the normal setting so we can get a little less out of it. Obviously, we want to pull back some of the volume for it. Same type of thing though. We're going to bring the cut up just a little bit to get rid of some of those high ends, because the AC30s, AC15s, Vox in general, it's known for chiminess. So we want to tame that just a little bit to try to match the other amp that we're going with, and not necessarily match tone for tone, but complement in the grand scheme of things. So let's see what this sounds like. Bring the cut back a little bit, bring the treble up and bass down slightly. Bring some brilliance up, and I think sounds pretty good. So we're trying, like I said, to complement each of the other amps. So in our splitter, we have the blackface over here. We're going to have the Vox over here. So now we should be having now we have something different. Okay. Well, first, let's turn the blackface back on. But if we want this to be stereo channel, then over here on our track where it says stereo guitar, click this circle, changing it from a mono mode to a stereo mode. So now, left and right, we have blackface, we have the Vox AC30 over here. So we're getting everything blended now into that stereo mix into one guitar track. So we have amps left and right. Now, what if we want some ambient things that we're adding here? What we can do in the same, I mean, you could do it through the splitter, you could do it through the channel strip here. We're just going to do it through the channel strip. Now, each of these amps have pedals that are set up in here. We're actually just going to get rid of them. We don't need anything here, and honestly, you don't even have to get rid of them. You can just keep them turned off, but for sake of my sanity, I like to get rid of them if I'm not using them. So we'll get rid of them. So now that's empty on both amps, but we are going to go in here, keeping it inside PreSonus, and we're going to come down to the pedal board. And we're going to put the pedal board before the splitter. So now if we look at our routing, we have pedal board. It gets split out left and right to to the stereo amps and then comes back together at the end. So with the pedal board, we're looking for ambience. Now, in a lot of ambient guitar, there's still some overdrive that's happening. Now, the actual tube screamer clone that they have, it's a little too harsh for me when it's going to ambient guitar. Now, you can obviously work with the levels and the gain and whatnot, but the tube driver that they have, actually, for a single knob little overdrive, it sounds amazing, and it warms it up, and honestly, I've not found a time where it's gotten too dirty. So let's listen to this here. Now, we've gotten a lot brighter in the tone, but I can also change my pickup position, and it's responsive to the volume knob as well. Now, obviously, you don't want to get crazy doing ambient stuff, but we're going to back this off just a little bit. Second thing I want to add here is a delay. So we're going to add two delays. We're going to add a regular quarter note delay, which isn't going to be a ton present in here, but and actually the feedback is a little much. Bring that down just a little bit more. All right, so we have that delay set up. Now I'm going to add a second delay, and we're going to set this one to a dotted eighth, because if you've ever played any sort of church music, dotted eighth, we love U2 in church apparently, so we're just mimicking the edge. So feedback, you don't need a whole lot of feedback, but mix, we want a lot in there. And then when we put both together, you can actually bring this feedback up a little bit, especially if we're doing ambient here. Okay, so now we have the delays set. Now, if you're just playing rhythm with these delays, it's not gonna be great. I mean, probably not gonna suit the song you're working on. I mean, it could. Everything, just remember, suit the song, but this, I probably wouldn't do those delays together for anything. But we do want to add a space verb here. Now, one thing I'll say with the space verb is the shimmer on this is very crazy. So we have to be very careful with this. A lot of times my shimmer's down to about here, around 8 to 10%. Mix, we're going to bring it up here. Decay, we're going to bring it up as well, just a little bit. And now we have So it's got a nice tail on there, fades out pretty good. Now, one thing that I can probably afford to do with this guitar is clean these pots out a little bit. Just, I can try to do some swells here, but the way these pots are dirty, so I do need to clean those. We get a little crackling with them sometimes. But let's see what the swells sound like, because that's really where the shimmer shines. Shimmer, shine. Yeah, shimmer shines. So it does a really good job at creating those larger swells that you can get from a massive pedal board. You're looking at a Starship Enterprise there, which the pedal board I have has a lot of lights, a lot of knobs, everything. I can get this sound uh, maybe a little bit better than what I can in the DAW, but this is a good starting place. Now, one thing that I also have on my board is some modulation. I also have some compression, so we can add a compressor, and I usually have the compressor first in the chain, um, so we can to get the sustain to hold everything out a little bit longer. See, even that shimmer's still a little bit too much for me. And then normally, so on my pedal board, and I'll try and recreate exactly what I use. So I have the space verb last, essentially in the chain, and then I have a standard reverb pedal also that's just set pretty huge. So if I can pull this reverb in, we're going to bring the size up, mix. So now So that's getting into more of the swell sound that I'm looking for, adding that second reverb in there. Now, the other thing that I have that normally I have turned on when I'm doing swells or a lot of ambient stuff is I do have a modulation that's set up, and I have that set up before the reverbs. Now, the modulation that I use is more so of a vibe modulator, so I can't completely recreate this in here with this modulation pedal that they offer, but we can get some pretty cool tones with the chorus itself. So chorus, we don't need a huge width. We're going to bring the depth up a little bit here, and we'll see what this one sounds like. That's actually not too bad. That sounds pretty cool. I mean, chorus is huge, pretty much in CCM stuff. I mean, honestly, chorus is just such a classic component to a lot of guitar work that you can't. I mean, you can definitely go wrong with it. Let's not crap ourselves here. But done properly in the right setting, it adds a lot of depth to things, and we have. Now, normally when I'm doing my swells, I have a foot pedal, my Ernie Ball Volume Junior, but I'm doing my best here, so I apologize for the lackadaisical swells that we're getting here, but you get the idea for everything. Inside Studio one channel, using a splitter, getting two different amps going. Now, you can even get more in depth with these amps. You can start messing around with the cabinets, changing the sounds of that. You can even get into the microphone section where you can't change the type of dynamic mic or ribbon mic or the stereo mics, but you can blend them, or you can turn off this link where you can have just a little bit of stereo or a little bit of ribbon mixed in with your dynamic. You can have a little bit of dynamic mixed in with your stereo. You can bring them both down, put them back on link, so that way it'll go 50-50, and it's one moves, the other moves. Then you can bring up these, and there's a lot that you can do with this, even setting the delays on the ribbon side of things, where if you put in, just a little bit, it gives that slight separation from when it's picking up the sound. And we can actually just listen here. So that's just the dynamic. It's bringing in the ribbon with that slight delay on the mic itself. So you can change things in here. Now, one thing that I like to use a lot also, and if you want to see this, we can definitely do a video on it. Let me know down in the comments section. IK Multimedia does Amplitube. So I have Amplitube 5, and I have purchased the different collections. Not all of them, but I have the Fender collection, which I absolutely love. The Fender collection. Now, there's a lot more detail you can get into with Amplitube to change things around. So like I said, if you guys want to see that, let me know down in the comment section. We'll make that video happen. But what did you guys think about this little building of a stereo guitar rig, huge ambient tones? I mean, me personally, I use ambient stuff all the time. So this is kind of second nature to me, just trying to get the tones that we're looking for. Now, obviously, this was a quick build of this channel strip in particular. So there's a lot more you can get into when you start to EQ things and different types of compression, things like that. Even working with delays and reverbs not set in pedal board, but using those aux sends that we were setting up in the template before, throwing it to a huge plate reverb or throwing it to the slapback along with a quarter note or even that half note beat delay, something like that can really take it from here up to here, and it can be a lot of fun. So mess around with this, absolutely. And if you see this template and you think it's something cool that you want to actually download for Studio One and mess around with it, just head over to our website, floodwaterstudios.com/template. Put your name up on the sign-up list for everything. You'll get an email right away that is going to give you the download link for this template. So I'll put a link down here on the bottom of the screen. One thing I can say is if you don't get the email right away, check your spam folder. I know a couple of them have been ending up there, unfortunately. But if you like this template, head over to floodwaterstudios.com/template. You can get it for free. Just sign up on the mailing list here. We hope to see you guys next week. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy it. Thanks for hanging out. See ya.